Hey guys, Drifter here. I'm back with more Black Ops Cold War gameplay, and today I want to talk to you about map design in Black Ops Cold War, but first I want to give a shout out to Activision and tell them thank you for letting me capture this gameplay early, and to let you know that if you want to support me, you can use creator code Drifter in Modern Warfare or Warzone right now, though that does make this video sponsored by Activision. So let's talk about map design. The first thing that I wanted to say is that I'm glad that color has returned to Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2019 is not the most colorful game, and as a person with mild red-green color blindness, it can be pretty rough. However, you can tell that Black Ops Cold War is not as colorful as older Treyarch games. So it's more colorful than World War II, more colorful than Modern Warfare 2019, but it's going to be less colorful than Black Ops 2, 3, or 4 for that matter. It's not very colorful by Treyarch standards. Though to be fair, it is supposed to be a sequel to Black Ops 1, so it makes sense to make use of a lot of the same kind of colors. There's a lot of teals and blues and color grading to kind of date the look of the game that takes place in Black Ops 1 that's kind of continued in this game, which is a sequel to it. And since I was part of the campaign presentation event, I got to learn that the team put a ton of work into making a realistic 1980s and not sort of a fantasy 1980s. They had this hard choice in the beginning to make a really like authentic, real 1980s, or to kind of make the 1980s like we remember it, which would probably be more accurate, like something like the upcoming Wonder Woman movie. The team even looked up real like luminosity and candela and color temperature values for all of the light bulbs that they chose to use in the game, not just the neon ones, but even the Soviet ones, so that they get the right values and make it as realistic as possible. And in that same sense, because you put so much work into lighting it this way, the game looks kind of like an 80s action movie. So I grew up watching 80s action movies, and I know kind of the style that they're going for. They even, I think, even color graded a little bit to kind of match the film look or the film footage from that era, so that when you think or you see footage from the 1980s, the game kind of has a filter on it or an effect or something that makes it look a little bit more like that. However, if you didn't know this, if you were not even much, but a little bit younger than myself, you might have seen less content from the 80s. You might say that the colors look somewhat muted or graded or a little different than what you might expect, and that's fair and fine. I just want to let you know that it's more colorful than what we have now, and it is clearer and easier to see enemies than Modern Warfare 19, but not tremendously so. It's not like Black Ops 2 where they just stand out, or Black Ops 3 where you can tell them by their shape. It's not that good, but it is way easier to see in my opinion. What you will see, however, when it comes to color is a huge amount of variety in color in the maps. For example, we have the reds and the really like crimson hues of the desert and the way the sun sets over that. Then in Miami, it's dark and primarily lit by neon lights of the bars and things, which is very unique. We have a bright white snow map where a lot of the light kind of bounces off the ground. You have the yellow rusty Moscow. You've got a lot of different lighting variety in the game and different color schemes, which I'm all on board for. I say that's great. I love that each map looks different. It's got a different color, a different feel. That's just more variety and more happy for me instead of seeing kind of the same in every single map. Now let's talk about map design in itself. Map features, map performance, etc., etc. Lanes is going to be a big topic of conversation. One fun fact to start with is that there are no doors in multiplayer maps in Black Ops Cold War, or no doors that you interact with and open and close yourself. Those will not be returning from Modern Warfare 2019, which means if you're running around in Black Ops Cold War and you see a door that's closed, it's going to stay closed and it's not going to move because it's a fixed part of the map, and in many cases you won't even be able to shoot through it. That's not to say the maps aren't entirely interactable. There's things to climb, stairs, you have ladders, zip lines. The zip lines are somewhere in between functionality of Apex Legends and Modern Warfare 2019. You have vehicles to help you get around on some of the bigger maps. I think the trend is going to be that each map has one light transport vehicle and one heavy vehicle. So the light ones are like snowmobiles and jet skis, and apparently it seems like motorcycles. And then the heavy ones are going to be like tanks and PT boats and stuff. So overall lower map interactivity than Modern Warfare 19 minus the vehicles, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because people were doing weird things with the doors in that game. The maps themselves are less 3-lane than Treyarch standard maps tend to be. Treyarch has had this sort of design philosophy for like almost the last decade, where every map or almost every map needs to have 3 distinct lanes, maybe a 4th lane, but there's just a couple of very clear paths that you go down. A lot of times the paths are at least somewhat symmetrical, so you have equal flanks and equal power positions on either side. And that's not really the case in this game. Even the maps in Black Ops Cold War that are more three-laned-ish have more flank routes than what's normal for Treyarch. A lot of the maps also seem to be designed around asymmetrical gameplay, so if you have a head glitch on one side, you might not have a head glitch on the other side. You might just have nothing and be out of luck. If one side has elevation, the other one doesn't. One side can get to the flag quickly, the other side can get to the flag safely. It's very, very different than the normal tit-for-tat, equal benefits on being on both sides of the map. And even the maps themselves that are symmetrical. So for example, the desert map, which is satellite, is roughly symmetrical. It doesn't really matter which side you're playing on, but then the map itself is asymmetrical. For example, you have one side that's all rocks and very hard cover and satellite and elevation, and then the other side is basically empty except for the dunes of the desert. So what you do is kind of like you're playing on that desert map in PUBG and use the dunes themselves for cover, which is a very interesting design decision. It kind of works, but it makes the map both symmetrical and asymmetrical at the same time, which is kind of a little bit much to wrap my head around. Miami is a completely asymmetrical map that plays, I would say Miami plays kind of like if, the Infinity Ward team from Modern Warfare 19 decided to start making a map and they had it mostly finished, and then Treyarch took over at the last minute, closed it off, polished it up, simplified it, and made it a little bit more lanefied. And I think it actually plays really well in the right modes. Moscow is probably the closest to a 3-lane map, but it still has flank routes and some unusual paths. So they're definitely busier than normal, but thankfully not messy. And these words have very different meanings for me. So a busy map is a map with lots of stuff to do. A lot of paths, a lot of windows, a lot of things to climb on, a lot of flank routes to check, a lot of choices, zip lines, vehicles, stuff like that. Messy, to me, means Call of Duty Ghost level clutter everywhere, just random junk all over the map, uneven ground, a lot of like tucked in kind of wrap around back behind you corners where Dark Corner McDougal can set up in and just wait all day for you to walk by and pop you once. And like rooms that are so messy they're impossible to sweep because people could camp in like 6 different places in one room. You're not going to run into that on the Treyarch maps. They're going to be a lot less messy, but they will be more busy than normal and that you're going to have more options. One of the other things that changed is that you can't mount your weapons on anything. That part of Modern Warfare 2019 is gone. However, you can definitely head glitch very well. The classic Treyarch head glitching is back big time. All of the people, especially the pro players in these games that I played with, knew how to take advantage of it. Everybody was head glitching. People were head glitching over the dunes, over rocks, over windows, over everything. So you need to be prepared for quite a lot of that if you're going to be playing Black Ops Cold War. And now near the end of the video, I want to offer you opinion time. My opinion is that the maps are excellently designed for the right modes. I kind of get the impression that the team started building these maps with certain modes in mind. For example, I know that VIP is probably not the most popular game mode right now, but I think that it plays very well on Miami. If you're playing VIP on Miami and you have teams that communicate, the asymmetrical nature of the map and the elevation and darkness actually work to make it a pretty fun VIP escort game. And it kind of makes sense, like you're getting the rich guy out of the club or something like that. It's really fun. But then when you take the game mode VIP and put it on the Crossroads map, which is the big snow map, it's miserable. The map is too big. There's too many routes. There's too many paths. Your team has to split up and be like 2 minutes apart to guard both sides. You can't rotate. And it's just not fun at all. For example, Crossroads may be miserable for VIP. I think it's very fun and very good on combined arms. Moscow, we played, I think, Kill Confirmed in TDM. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Just campy, windows, everything. But when we played Control with the areas that you're supposed to, control and the spawns and the rotations, it played great on Control. I could see what they wanted out of the map when we were playing Control on it. So yeah, some of the maps are clearly made for some game modes, and other modes were just kind of slammed into maps that weren't really made for them, which kind of makes me sad. A part of me almost wishes that we could take an alternative path and maybe go the Overwatch route and just play the strongest, best map mode matches. Like, for example, Miami, we would play Domination and VIP, but we'd never play Kill Confirmed. Kill Confirmed would be on Satellite, but VIP wouldn't be on Satellite because it's too small, and you would just have some of these modes not be available on some maps because they just don't play well on them. And for competitive, you would have these certain maps and modes that you would play very much so like Overwatch. But I gotta be realistic, this is Call of Duty, it's a casual game, and every year since the beginning of the time, except with the exception of like Ground War and the War mode from World War II, you get to play every single mode on every single map. And this year, I think the mode to map matches are not as overall strong as they have been. They're very out of balance. Some of them are excellent, some of them are quite poor in my opinion. So depending on what mode you play, how much variety you experience, if you're going competitive or regular, or exactly what you're doing, I think that your experience with map design is going to be a very mixed bag. So I would just let you be aware of that. Now, we've seen a few out of what I assume are going to be quite a lot of maps, and I've had maps change on me. I think during Black Ops 3, they radically changed a couple of the maps to after our initial playtest to make them flow better, so they could change like geometrically in the future. We don't know exactly. And one final opinion, I think that the zipline design for the Armada map was excellent. The ziplines really make the Armada map work because they allow you to have water in the middle, which you can swim and drive your boats and screw around in, and it's kind of like a slow down no man's land. But you also have multiple ziplines that take you where you need to go around the boat, but you can shoot off of them, you can camp the ziplines, you can get on and off quickly, you can jump out of an elevated position and catch them. You can zip from the bottom, like the water, you don't have to climb a ladder, you can just get a zipline and go straight up to the roof of the boat. That really increased the speed and combat loops of the maps, and in my opinion it made that map play way better. So I can't wait to see what they do with zip lines in Warzone. I assume it's coming to Warzone since we already have them in this current Warzone and some of the other maps. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.